from NJ.com and the Heldridge Hotel. Welcome to the Rutgers Rant, your one-stop podcast for the Scarlet Knights. With your host, Steve Politi, and Rutgers insider Brian Fonseca. Let's start shopping.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Rant. We got a press conference in Piscataway, some stuff to talk about. We met the new defensive coordinator, Brian, Travis Johansen, in front of us, talking about his life, his career. We're going to get into all that. My favorite part about this, and this is I like to take listeners behind the scenes. So we're in the room, and we have time to discuss what our questions are going to be. And I declare it right away, I'm asking a softball. I've decided that I'm not in a fight. I'm not in a fighting mood. I'm going to get the microphone, ask something easy. And you're like, whoa, no. I'm coming straight at the heat. I'm going to ask, what took you so long, Greg? And I love it because you were fired up about this. And then the man comes out and he knows, look, he is just 3 moves ahead on the chessboard. Immediately knows where this is going, heads it right off at the pass and explains in great detail why things took so long.
Listen, the sports communication department, Jimmy Gill and all those guys do a great job of knowing what we talk about, what we write about, and what we're going to ask about. So Greg was clearly very well prepared. He said he talked to 20 guys across the NFL, the UFL, the CFL. I don't know why.
All the FLs, he said. I love that line. All the FLs.
All the FLs, which, listen, I understand being thorough. If I don't think there's really a guy in the CFL that's this mystery defensive coordinator that's going to transform the program, but I understand, again, being thorough. And then he seemed ultimately pretty happy with the result of the search and the guy they got. He spoke about Travis Johansen in glowing terms. He said he was on the radar the entire time. That wasn't the terminology he used, but essentially he said we kind of had him in the hopper. That's what he said. He was in the hopper the whole time, which, Johansson gave an interview to a local outlet in South Dakota that said this came together really quickly. So I'm not sure what, it's probably somewhere in the middle. But let's not quibble about timelines here. The fact is that Rutgers got their guy, and Greg seems really high on it.
Yeah. I don't think that Greg could have said, we just discovered this guy yesterday, and I don't think Travis could have said, I've been talking to him for 3 months. Either way, it would not have been a good look. But yeah, and this is true. I talked to Greg a little bit later we'll talk about my KJ Duff interview in a minute. And I went into his office and I got a few minutes just to ask a question about that. And he said to me, look, you can tell I'm excited about this, and you can see it in him, his the way he was jazzed up. And I think it is just like finding, a football nerd, someone like a chip off his own block, someone like I call them a mini me, right? That this guy is like someone who already has been in that building 16 hours a day, someone who, they were talking about teaching tackling strategy. There's nothing. And remember where Greg is now coming from, off of when all he did the last, 3 months, interview candidates, handle NIL packages and money and all, and the part of the job that all coaches hate, that drives Jay Wright out of the business, all this stuff people hate. And now here he is. He's got a guy in the building who he's talking football with, who's excited about, who's got a lot of ideas. I mean, I think clearly it was an energizing hire, and it made me think of this, Brian. It's not just the fact that Greg Schiano shouldn't have been calling the defense for just practical purposes because he's got so much else on his plate. Also, just for preserving that energy, to not, not have to put all of yourself into it. To have someone you trust who can do it is no small factor.
Yeah, I think that was he's said it from the front that he wanted a guy like Kirk Ciarrocca, what he does for the offense, where I don't think Greg has to worry much about what Kirk is doing on that side of the ball. He wants it on defense. And I think he found that guy in Johansson, where Greg was pretty clear that he's still involved. He's still going to be in meetings. There's going to be discussions or whatever. To your point, he's not going to be drawing up third down pass rushing scenarios for the third quarter against Ohio State or whatever, right? He's going to be able to hand that off to him, put his trust in him. Clearly, that was it's one thing to say it. I think it's clear that that's the case when you look at the staff he's building. He's letting him bring in guys that he knows, a lot of continuity. He said it was important the guys understand his system. Very I know this is the buzzy name to bring around, but it's very Signetti-esque. And just that was a big part of his success was continuity. Guys knew what to expect. Guys knew how to coach. And, they're not going to bring a ton of players over, but the idea being the coaching staff knows what he wants, what to expect. And then the other thing that I think is energizing for Greg, I know we compare this a little bit to Harris Simiak, a guy that's been a head coach at a lower level, but also a younger guy who Greg could see as a way to someone to mold, right? I think it's kind of exciting for Greg. Not only you're coaching the players, but you're finding this young guy who loves football as much as you do, and you can kind of help him take the next stage in his career. I think that's also kind of energizing for him.
Right. And then that's a big factor as to why what Travis Johansen said, when we asked him, like, what's your why? And that was part of it. I think he wanted to work for a guy like Greg. He wanted to learn what it's like to be a head coach from someone who's been a head coach. Like, there's part of it. And also, and he had a really good answer about that, just like he sees a place where he can make an impact. Right. And I think, clearly he had gotten or South Dakota had gotten to a level where, the only thing that was left for that program was to win a national championship. Rutgers is obviously there's many steps between here and there and he sees that he can make an impact here in a way that, that maybe he couldn't in South Dakota. And I thought, first impressions of him, I thought he was great. Like, you can tell he was a head coach. He was extremely comfortable answering questions, well-spoken, I loved a lot of his answers. I'm trying to think of the ones that stuck with me. Or the one, we said, look, my dad's a truck driver. Nothing was handed to me. I like stuff like that. Like, here's a guy who clearly, wasn't born on third base, has something to prove. If you're a Rutgers fan and you're listening, then I'm sure you liked all that.
The guy knows how to play the hits at a press conference. You hit the blue collar, I wasn't born on third base deal. You hit the, my son, I had to break the news to him that he's no longer a Coyotes fan, but he has to be a Rutgers fan. Played 3 hours of highlights. I imagine a lot of that was Ray Rice and Brian Leonard.
I'm about to say, where do you get the hope of 3 hours of these highlights? And the kid be like, Dad, where are we going? If he's watching 3 hours of this defense, are you sure about this, Dad? Can I read a bedtime story instead?
He just put on the 06 Louisville game. Be like, this is what everybody's going to talk to you about for the next 30 years when we're at Rutgers. So, I think he, as you said, he knows how to do a press conference. Very detailed answers, some good stuff in there. Has a presence, right? Like, I think I've seen people say he has a bit of a quiet confidence. I think you can kind of see him project that. Again, winning the press conference is easy. It's not a given, but most of the time it's easy. Now it's going to be interesting to see, what he does with the roster, because he said that he had some idea of what he was working with. Obviously, when he's contemplating this job, he's going to watch tape and look at the guys that they brought in without him, obviously, because he wasn't around for the portal era.
Right.
He didn't really have much to say about what he thinks, because I don't know if he's had enough data to gather about what he thinks, but what he's going to be able to do with those guys that he didn't pick out is going to be the kind of key deal here.
Yeah, I didn't leave that. One thing I did not leave the press conference with was any kind of more clarity as to what kind of defense he's going to run. Did you we asked it in a couple different ways. Similar to Greg's defense is what Greg Schiano said when we asked him about that. But different principles. I don't know. I think we're not going to know this until, well into spring practice, if then.
Probably not until the first few games. I think they run the same base, like a 4-2-5. Maybe some differences in they've switched back and forth the last couple of years. The fifth defensive back between a quarterback and a safety. Will they go back to safety? I think what he's made clear in the press conference and in other interviews in the past is he's not going to pigeonhole himself. He's going to try to find, instead of finding the 11 best players for a certain system, he'll find the best 11 players and work around them to find the best system for them, if that makes sense, right? Put the players in position to play well rather than try to find players that make his system look the best. So I think he will be versatile is not the word, adaptable. I think that's a big part here. And I think it'll be interesting to see how he does. But again, I leave the press conference. I left the press conference feeling better, much better than I did 2 weeks ago when we were in the middle of this whole, will he call the defense? Who's going to come in? All that stuff.
Of course. Yeah. Another observation, the fact that Kelly Zinn was in the room. I thought that was interesting. She made a point to come to the press conference. Greg made a point of shouting her out, her involvement in this. I think that's a real thing. I don't think this is, this is not something I gotta thank my boss, that kind of thing. I think she was involved in this. And I think there's indication, and that's a good sign. Right. And I don't know to what level, if it was steering him toward this decision, if it was supporting him with all the logistics. That's kind of what he hinted at might be. Certainly she's not the one, you got to hire this guy in South Dakota. We know that. But it is, given where this was, right, where the athletic director had no involvement whatsoever in the football program for the first, 4 years that Greg Schiano was doing this. Then they had no athletic director, period. Now look, it's a different scene entirely.
Yes. Back when the previous athletic director couldn't walk the 500 feet from his office at the Rodkin to the Hale Center, or frankly, he was even welcome to do that.
About to say he could walk it. They just wouldn't. Yeah, they just had guards, had barbed wire.
I think that was a mutual decision that one didn't want to go there and one didn't want the other one there. And I think I agree with you. You could tell the difference between, because he had thanked Pat Hobbs in the past for other things, but you could tell when he's being sincere or when he's kind of going through the motions.
Yeah.
What I would say with Kelly, I think it's twofold, right? It's support in two different ways. One, obviously the financial backing. Kelly has talked about like spending and evaluating everything. Clearly spending on football coaching remains still there. Travis is making 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. Not exactly breaking the bank, but they're not pulling back either, right? That's roughly a little bit less than what Harris Simiak would be set to make if he was still the DC. And then support, like as far as the length of the process. Obviously, there was noise bubbling up on the outside between us, other writers, the fans, etc. And I would imagine that Kelly, showed some patience on the inside and allowed Greg to go through this entire process his own way.
Right. Yes. And as I said to someone, like, this is the good news is we cover you as a year-round beat now. The bad news is we cover you as a year-round beat now. So we have something to talk about. But yeah, but absolutely, it was out there. It was, the narrative was right, and I think there was, we weren't making up the legitimate concerns about it, right? Like, it wasn't just that we were getting impatient because we had content to fill. I think there were some concerns that the idea that this might end with a different result. It did not end with a different result. All right. So in addition to Johansson, if people are just tuning into this, give me who are the other hires and what's left for him defensively to build that staff.
Right. So they hired another sitting FCS head coach, Joe Woodley, head coach at Drake. He is coming in an undefined role. I'm assuming they'll fill him in wherever there isn't a hire, right? Like if they hire everyone but a linebackers coach, he'll be the linebackers coach. If they find a guy who's better at linebacker, they'll fill him in at defensive ends, whatever. Yeah. Right. So he's kind of the wild card there. Adam Cox, who was Woodley's DC at Drake as well. He's going to be the safeties coach. He played at Iowa, worked under Phil Parker, which is like this, really, 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 really good defensive coordinator, a long time at Iowa. There's so many names. Eric Finney, he was the cornerbacks coach at South Dakota. So he's bringing him over from South Dakota with him here. Is there another name I'm forgetting? It's very possible. There's so many of them that they've hired.
Obviously Greg said there are more coming.
There are more coming, yes, which kind of drives me nuts. Just announce who they are. Just tell us who they are. I mean, like, if you're going to tell us that they're coming, just tell us who they are. But anyway, that's a different point. And then I guess the other one in the different direction that happened since we last recorded, Julian Campenny, that defensive ends coach, outside linebackers coach, whatever position you want to call it, he took a job as an assistant defensive line coach. Greg did say that last year they had good coaches, it just didn't work out, and a lot of them landed on their feet. I don't know to what extent to which it was like, all right, you could wait it out for the DC and he'll decide. But guys decided to just leave for other jobs in the meantime, or if they were encouraged to find other jobs. I think that's probably the more likely one. The point being, David Rowe, cornerbacks, went to Cincinnati. Julian Campenny went to the Chargers in the NFL. And Vic Hall, the safeties coach, went to Virginia Tech with James Franklin, who he worked under in the past. Yeah. And now Rutgers is kind of that allowed a lot of spaces for Johansson to fill. And again, so far he's filled them with guys he knows with experience under him who have had success, albeit at a lower level.
Yeah, and I like the fact that he is comfortable enough in his own skin to hire another sitting head coach for his staff. I think that does speak volumes as well. There'll be a lot of experience on the staff on both sides. That's the other part of it. And I think there was a sense at the end of last year that, and it was a tough thing to write, tough thing to say, and I think it pissed people off. But like that the coaching wasn't good enough. That wasn't that Greg Schiano did not surround himself with enough good coaches. And I get it. Like, these are people he liked and people he trusted, but it just wasn't at a high enough level. I don't know. I think we'll see, I guess, but I think there's a lot of optimism that he has built a much better staff. He's got a much better staff around him than he did a year ago.
Yes, more experienced staff, right? Like, even for example, Vic Hall had never been a position coach. Now you got a sitting DC again, albeit at an FCS school, but a sitting DC to be your safeties coach. Yeah. The other interesting with Woodley that I forgot to mention, the Drake head coach, him and Johansson were co-DCs at Grandview, which is an NAIA program that Joe Willie's father founded. Like he was the first head coach, and they were co-DCs there, and they had that ridiculous streak where they never lost a regular season game when he was the head coach there. I mean, that's unbelievable.
That's
6
amazing.
years,
It really
you don't
is.
lose a regular season game. That's crazy.
Those spoiled Grandview fans. They don't know how lucky they've got it in Grandview.
But yes, I think on paper, things have upgraded significantly from last year. Or I shouldn't say significantly. They have upgraded from last year. Now it's about putting paper into practice.
Right. We do not know if the team is upgraded, and that's, if people in the fan base were sitting there watching that press conference, like, why aren't they asking about the team? Because we couldn't. We one thing about Greg, the one thing he hasn't changed, he does like to control the narrative, and did not take questions about the transfer portal, the entire new roster, essentially. I think they're still building the team, so that's for another time to come. I'm sure there's still some openings, and maybe that's perhaps the reason why they don't want to not just distract from their big hire, but also because it's still a unfinished product. The painting is in works.
In theory, we could have asked. To be fair, the issue is that we each get one question, and do you want to waste the question on, what you could ask because nothing's going to change between now and spring camp, right? And we're currently in a press conference about the defensive coordinator. Do you really want to waste a question about, Malachi Davis?
Right.
That is also true. There's also the possibility you ask the question, he says, I want to stick to the
We're here
DC
to talk about, yeah, exactly. Right.
So,
yes.
Yes, there's a lot of game theory we play as journalists in Greg Schiano press conferences. And listen, sometimes we get shouted out. You got shouted out because Greg was playing his own game theory and didn't want to give you some sexy headline.
Yes, I love it. That was very funny. What did he say exactly? I don't want to give Plitty an easy headline. It's good.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to work for it. It happens. Instead, KJ Duff gave me an easy headline, a good headline, a positive headline. I requested KJ to take you through it. I requested KJ immediately after he decided to stay at Rutgers. That was, a month and a half ago, and the request was approved after the DC hire. And I got a chance to talk to him. I talked to him for about 20 minutes. A really good interview. And I sometimes I'm hesitant. I will say this, the guy, in this program, guys don't really want to say much. They're just very concerned about messaging. This was not the case with KJ. He was eloquent on his reasons for staying. He had thought them through clearly. Like this was not, and if you're a Rutgers fan, you got to love it. That's the best way I can tell you. Here's your best player on the team. He stuck around, and of course, he stuck around for the money, right? $2 million. I get it. Like he's not doing this for free. But the point being, like when he's making the considerations, two things mattered to him. One was legacy, like how he's going to be remembered in 30, 40 years. That's what he said, and I think that's important to him. The idea he's leaving something behind. People will talk about him in a place, which is uncommon in college sports these days. And the second one was Dave Brock. He wanted this, he felt like he got better from his freshman year to his sophomore year. He thinks he's going to get better again from his sophomore year to his junior year. This is the coach, one of the, again, experienced position coach who's worked with great receivers who he trusts. And that's it. So I don't know. That's all you can ask for as a Rutgers fan. You want people to take, not think they have to go someplace else to become an NFL player. KJ Duff, your best player, says, no, I'm fine right here.
It's exactly what you want to hear from your number one wide receiver, your best player, the face of your program, is that he's confident in where he sits and that he embraces that situation, right? Like everyone knows KJ is the best player on the team. He's going to get the ball a ton, and he knows that too, and he wants that, right? That's what you want to hear from him, and he's going to be. Again, we don't have the numbers entirely, so I can't say this with 100% confidence. I'm fairly certain he's the first $2 million player insofar as how much money he's getting from the program. And not obviously Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey could have hit that number with Fanatics and Nike and Red Bull. Right. What I'm saying is like a vast majority of what KJ Duff is getting, which again is we've heard is north of $2 million, that is coming from rev share and program funds, right? NIL. Yeah. So that's a big responsibility, right? Like that can weigh on people. And I just don't worry about that with KJ, not only because of what he said, obviously he said all the right things and more, but I do sense like he's the kind of guy who embraces this role. And even when he was saying that the quarterback situation wasn't really part of his decision, I think he knows that I'm the guy. If you get me or Politi or Brian to throw me the ball, I will catch it and make a play.
Right.
But you elongate a little bit on that because I obviously wasn't in the call. What exactly did it say when you asked about the quarterback situation and how it fit into his decision?
Yes, he was guarded on that, and he said it didn't matter in his decision. He trusted the coaches to put the right quarterback in play, and I think he roomed with AJ Surace his freshman year, which I didn't know. So obviously he knows AJ pretty well. He's comfortable with him, but I think he was also cautious not to say, he's my guy. I love AJ because it's going to be a competition. And here he is, like, this is a smart, he's being careful. Like he didn't want to come in and make it seem like, oh, KJ Duff prefers AJ over Dylan Lonergan, who just came into the program. So he was very diplomatic about that. And diplomatic on Ian Strong leaving, which is interesting as well. And obviously these guys have been teammates since freshman year of high school. They're best friends. And he said they talked every day during the process. But he did not, in the end, try to steer Ian Strong's decision. Like he decided that wasn't his place. It wasn't fair to do. And they're still keep in touch. And this is kind of like, you think about my son downstairs playing, the same games against the same 4 people who live in the same town on the computer for 3 hours a night. Like, I don't know if it changes, the fact that Ian Strong's in California to play on the Xbox. Like, this is probably the same thing. Like, I don't know if that changes anything for him. But obviously the relationship's different. He said it's weird not having him around, but he supported that. Talked about Antoine Raymond a little bit. Same thing. Like he was, jazzed that he came back and talked to him about his reasons. I think there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes now with these guys that we don't see, because they're all free agents all the time. And this is something in college sports that is unprecedented. Like the previous generations didn't have this freedom of movement, and this one does. And they have decisions to make. And I think every bit of it is that my takeaway from that interview was that KJ put a lot of thought in his decision and made this decision for all the right reasons.
Right. I think part of it is also like fans, and this is natural, like feel maybe not vitriol, but disappointment in decisions. Maybe they view a player differently because they decided to go to Cal or Miami or whatever. Right. At the end of the day, this is KJ Duff's friend, right? Like these guys are friends, and they don't feel this personal betrayal, at least not to the same degree when a guy decides to go somewhere else. Right. They're still buddies. If I worked with my friend and he decided to get a job somewhere else, I wouldn't never talk to the guy again, right? Not that people are expecting that. I guess it's just my point to put this into perspective. Like at the end of the day, these guys are friends, and they're happy for each other to each of them succeed. And just to wrap the point on, he put a lot of thought into this decision, chose Rutgers. That's a big win for Rutgers, and it's a big win in the other direction because Rutgers was able and willing to do what it has to do to keep this guy, put the money up, and be competitive in that market for a top level wide receiver. If KJ Duff was in the portal from another school, I don't think he would consider Rutgers. I really don't. But because he was developed here, because he knows what he can get here out of Dave Brock, and Rutgers was competitive money-wise, that made it a decision for him. So I guess that just emphasizes the need for this continue to be a developmental program where you find these guys, develop them, and then you have a little bit of an edge when you're trying to keep them from the Sharks.
It would have been devastating had he left, no question. And now, I wrote this morning. I think he's one of the most important players in the NIL era, maybe the most important football player certainly in the NIL era now, because his success. There's a lot riding on his success. Like it's proof of concept in a way, right? If he comes in here and he had 7 touchdowns, 1,045 yards, 18 yards a catch, something like that. If suddenly he's got 1,500 and 12 touchdowns and he is playing himself into a early NFL pick, that's going to resonate with people as much as the money, right? Like I get it. Small memories. People always, the money's the biggest thing. I can say it a million times. I completely understand. I've written that sentence, ad nauseum, emails to people. But there's other stuff involved in this. Right, like you don't want to take this. This is not KJ Duff's last paycheck, right? Like he is building towards something else, and he wants to see if he has a bad year, it could work the opposite way too, right? Like if he regresses, if the offense stinks, if the quarterback's not getting him the ball, there's kind of a lot riding on his success.
I was going to say the exact last point you just said, right? Like other teams will find any reason to negative recruit you or whatever, but this would be a big reason to give them is that Do you really want to stay at a place where this guy stayed and, he was on this upward trajectory and things kind of fell apart? Like, that's an easy sell for another team, right? So, not that he has to have, another, 1,000-yard, 18 touchdown season or whatever to make this decision the right one, but I just don't think he could have a huge regression, if that makes sense. And for Rutgers as well, like, you can't control this, obviously. But like, if the guy gets hurt, then you're throwing $2 million down the drain because you put a lot of investment in this, right? So there's a lot riding on it in many, many directions. But ultimately, it's a good thing for Rutgers, and I think it'll end up being a good thing for KJ Duff.
Right. And you mentioned that it is like negative recruiting in the same way that people can use, you want to go to Rutgers, and Dylan Harper's 15 and 17 year Ruck. It's true. It's the same thing. The success of the team as well matters in that level. All right. Want to talk basketball? Got 25, 26 minutes into the show. Is it time for the break? We got a big game on Sunday.
Huge
game. The surging Terrapins of Maryland come. I was told this was one of the wins, two of the wins. I was told Maryland was terrible. Now they're knocking off upper level Big Ten teams. What happened?
Well, listen, I'm not saying there's a correlation here, but Buzz Williams does his first non-post-game availability on Tuesday, first one in 2 months. He talks to the press.
What's the big deal about that? If he's available, I don't understand. Like, why are people fired up about this?
Well, most Big Ten teams have availability before every game, like a day or two before every game. Matt Painter does it. Tom Izzo does it for half an hour at a time. Anyway, the point is he didn't for 2 months. He's the first-year head coach. Fans are saying, like, we don't feel connected to this guy. He's not one of our guys, whatever. He has the press conference. He apologizes. The next day, they beat Iowa for the biggest win of the season by far, and they're on a 2-game win streak. I don't know. Maybe getting stuff off your chest is helpful to getting a win. In all seriousness, though, two wins, and the importance of this game is that Rutgers, Maryland, Northwestern, Oregon, I want to say, and Penn State are all fighting for the highly coveted, super important 14th place spot that gets you a bye in the Big Ten tournament, makes you avoid Tuesday. This tournament used to start on Wednesday. Now it's because they're using all 18 teams. They're starting on Tuesday between the 4 worst teams.
One shining Tuesday.
Soon enough, it'll be one shining Sunday. We'll just keep pushing back
when there's 28 teams in the Big Ten. Yeah,
Correct. My point is, this is obviously they play Maryland away as well, but this could be a big swing game. Right now, according to J-Tom Analytics, which is a great college basketball analytics site, Rutgers has a 2% chance at 12th place, 10% chance at 13th place, and 19% chance at 14th place. So that's a 31% chance of a first round bye, which means a 69% chance of playing on one shining Tuesday.
Right.
That could swing if they beat Maryland.
Yeah. I'd like to pretend I care about that. I can't muster it though. I'm afraid it's just, for me, it's just, you can't, I mean, just, you got to be better than what I saw against Nebraska. Like everything, defense, effort, the whole thing. Like, it's just, you can't, if they have another game like that, then you have, I mean, just as bad as this season is, there is still another level of bad. And it would be coming out against a home crowd and playing a game like that and losing to what is still a bad Maryland team at home with another, and for the 8th straight loss. I mean, this is an important game just for safe face purposes.
That's a good point. I had not considered that. If they lose this game, it will be the longest losing streak of the Steve Pikiell era, which you just don't want that mark, obviously, right? No. If you want to feel good about this, Rutgers is 2-0 against the bottom 4 teams in the league. They beat Oregon, they beat Northwestern, both in overtime and both at home. Maryland is certainly in the same range.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Do you think this is the kind of game they're going to come out? They've had a week off. Are they going to come out balls to the wall, you think?
I don't know. I've kind of lost the thread with this team. Like, you would hope so. You would think so. You know, they just the effort part of the effort part of the equation is the one thing that you used to never have to doubt that part of it. Like, it was always a constant. Like, you know, and I think if they play to that level of effort and want and pressure and defensively, they will win. absolutely. I don't feel confident predicting whether or not they're going to, and it's just, that's kind of that's what's most glaring in a lot of ways about this team. I guess we expected the offense to look like this, and we expected the center to be, a gaping hole. We expected a lot of things coming into the year were going to be problems. I didn't think we'd be talking about this.
Yes, and I think it's important to show that the effort is there. In the last 7 games, they have 6 winnable games in the last 7. Right? We can go back and forth on what the win total should be there to kind of feel good going into the offseason for whatever it's worth. But I certainly think the effort has to be non-negotiable, especially in these winnable games. I think there's some importance in stopping the bleeding, right? Even if you make this an 8-game losing streak, you can't make it 9, you can't make it 10, because then things are really cratering, right? And I know we feel very good about Steve Pikiell coming back next year. You don't want to give anyone any reason to start letting doubt creep in there, right? Because if this turns from a 7-game losing streak and you end the year on a 14-game losing streak, 15-game losing streak, that's the kind of stuff that maybe opens the wound up, right? So I guess my point here is that I still think Steve Pikiell's coming back. I really have very few doubts, but you got to win, I would say 2, maybe 3 of these games to get some good feeling going into the offseason.
Some people have doubts. I saw your friend Trudy Johannesburg was in Discord, right? Is that what happened? So I'm on that Discord. Can I get on that Discord? I can, right? I'm on Discord now.
You got to pay $10 though. It's not free.
I'm not paying $10. I don't $10.
And the worst part is you can't unsubscribe. I don't think I can subscribe. I've tried because the Rutgers chat on that thing is dead, and I've tried to unsubscribe, and it's worse than like Paramount Plus. It's impossible. But anyway, I didn't unsubscribe. There was a national writer, Rocco Miller, who was just throwing out intel that he's had from a few phone calls this week, taking the temperature of how hot certain seats are around the country, and he labeled Rutgers under. Let me get the wording correct so I don't botch this. I sent you the screenshot. You're correct, right?
Else would I know about it if you didn't send it to me?
It's a fair question. This is bad radio. I was not okay. He puts them in trending toward a change.
Trending toward a change.
Trending toward a change.
Like when?
Well, this would imply
trending toward extinction as well. Like how long? What does that mean? Like,
I've had further conversations and specifically with my friend Rocco. And
you talked to Rocco. You have more information than I. Okay, all right.
I did talk to Rocco. The buyout is prohibitive, which is what we have essentially been hearing, right? Like it makes it basically impossible, right? So, and look, I like to think that we have a better sense of a finger on the pulse closer to the situation than maybe the national agency's talking to. But we're throwing this out there just as kind of an idea of what is being talked about, outside of Piscataway in the coaching agent reporter circles. Right.
It would be extremely surprising right now if Steve Pikiell is not coach next year. That's how I would describe it. It's not impossible. It's not like it's never going to happen. It's just very, very unlikely.
Correct. And listen, until someone in the administration comes out on the record and says he's coming back, there's always that 1% lingering, and you don't want that 1% to grow unless you don't want that 1% to grow by losing 8, 9, 10, 11 games in a row. Because it's one thing to lose games to Nebraska and UCLA and teams of that caliber. It's another thing to lose games to Maryland, Penn State, Minnesota, Washington. You want to avoid that.
Right. Yes. And I think the thing that you also want to avoid, like you want to give the paying customers a reason to keep supporting the team. And like we've seen some of these photos from other gyms. Maryland's one of them. Like some of these games, Syracuse, some of these games that have popped up across where the program's dead, and then the crowd is dead. Like you're seeing and that has not happened yet at the RAC. Like the crowds have been good. Like still supporting this. There's a limit to that because we've seen it. Like it's not like this is we're projecting something that hasn't happened. Like believe me, like we've been there when it's dead for a bunch of years and the students stop coming and everyone, it gets at that point. It's it's there's they got to avoid that.
Yes, the crowds have been better than this team probably deserves, to be frank.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it's fair. And I agree. There's patience to a certain level. Season tickets dropped slightly this year, like very slightly. You don't want that slightly to become an avalanche.
Right.
Hope springs eternal, but it only can last so long, right?
Absolutely. All right. Anything else on basketball? Have any questions? What do we got? How are we going to wrap this up?
So first we'll go with updates to the baseball field. I don't know.
I forgot about that. Yes.
I don't know how often you've been to Baton Field.
Once.
But you might come back more often. Well, actually, before we get to that, why were you at Baton Field that one time?
I was at Baton Field. This is a great story. I was meeting Pat Hobbs because I had decided that, you know what, there's nothing going on. I should write a column. Give Pat a pat in the back. Like he's done some good things. Talk about columns that didn't age well. One time, this is true. Like one of my first week as columnist, I wrote that unequivocally Tiger Woods would not win the Masters 3 days before he won the Masters, and that column aged better than the column I wrote on Pat Hobbs that day. I forget exactly what. I can't remember. We were standing there and we were just talking about it was kind of the example of. He had just got a new contract extension. They just opened the Rodkin. Steve Pikiell is hot, doing really well. Must have been pre-pandemic, I assume, because we were. I can't remember exactly what it was, and we're standing there, and one of the lead of the column was looking at this baseball field, which had a scoreboard that looked like it was taken off Nutley High. Like the lights were out and they couldn't replace the lights anymore because it was so old that there was no more, they didn't make the light bulb. Like Thomas Edison made the last light bulb for that thing and they had none left. And it was kind of here's something else he had to do. One more thing that had to be fixed on a long list of things. I guess it got fixed.
It was May 22. So this was right after they made 2 straight NCAA tournaments. Right. He got a new contract. I'm fairly certain that's when he gave Steve Pikiell the mega contract. I could be wrong there.
Could be. Right.
So
basketball team was good. They were building stuff. There was a good vibe. There was a good minute.
Yes.
Football was doing okay. They hadn't started. NIL hadn't started yet. That's when things, truly started to unravel.
But anyway, so you know what the seating situation was like at Baton Field, the press box situation. The program just released new photos, updated seats. Up top is the press box.
That's nice. Press box. Huh? Look at that.
Yes, covered. So it's when it's cold out, you'll be covered. You'll be fine.
It wasn't cut. The press box wasn't covered.
It was, but it was below. So it was where this is the outfield. I should know more about this than
other than Griffin Whitmer. Who sits there? Does anybody cover?
So this is a better view.
Oh, how about that? Nice. Is that natural grass?
No, it's turf. That's turf, and it's not dirt either. That's turf.
Yeah. If you're listening to big screen in the scoreboard and R on the outfield. If you're not watching on YouTube, I'll describe it to you. There you go. Looks nice. Lights. You can see the rack hovering in the background. The hulking Soviet tank factory that it is. It looks nice.
It makes Dennis Battleau and Harun Zerno feel right at home.
Right, exactly. So okay, so what's going on? So are they playing there this year? I would assume it looks ready.
Correct. They're still playing at Baton Field. They're not playing at the Middlesex complex until next year, I believe, and it would only be select games. So that situation was not as quick as planned when it was originally signed. Right. Another Pat Hobbs deal that
that didn't make any sense at the time, but was not big enough of a deal for us to look into. What are they still going to do that? Is there any chance of getting out of that?
My understanding is it's still going to happen. Yes, because they're partners in Rutgers using that as a home base at some points was probably a big part of that deal being approved. Right? Why else would you have Middlesex County College having a baseball complex? Right? Unless they're a JUCO powerhouse, I'm not aware of, which I don't think they are. So. We'll get more information on that, and we'll know closer to next year. But this year, all the home games will be at Baton Field, which should be because they just renovated it. So, and they're also renovating the soft ball section, field, whatever. I don't have any photos of that, but we'll keep an eye on that.
Right.
A very random. I'm going to throw this number out at you. This is very random. I was looking through the financial reports yesterday.
Okay.
And Kevin Fine had a good question about it, so I decided to look into it.
What was Kevin Fine's question?
Okay, so the Alabama writer 247. He posted a screenshot of how much money every team made and lost and the deficit in the 24-25 year, the most recent one. And no one had done it for Rutgers. So I just quickly used what I had and I posted it on our Discord and their Discord for those numbers. And we'll again, if you want to see them, join our Discord. The link is on our bio on Twitter.
I'm sure the folks in football would have disputed your little chart for the record.
Well, I did throw in there. The very important thing to note here is that all of the media rights money, some $61 million, goes under non-program specific. If you apply the proper amount to football, say 85%, that program probably turns a slight profit instead of a massive deficit.
Yes.
So I covered my ass on that.
Okay. Gotcha.
I'm trying to find the exact. I wish I had this top of mind because it was a hilarious number.
Well, like Alabama football made like 80 million and everything else lost 80 million, something crazy like that, right? I remember seeing it. Correct.
The football was like the only program that that made the money. Oh my God, this is driving me nuts. This is terrible radio.
Which is not sustainable. The idea that you could have, I think that was the general takeaway from that tweet.
Well, that was what people were saying, yes, but it's not like it's a revelation that
no.
That these programs lose money. All right, here's the number. Are you ready?
Yep.
So in 18 home games, I think it was 18 home games. How much do you think the softball program made during the 25 season in novelty, parking, and concessions?
I'm going to go $536.
162. They made.
I went too high. I
per game.
Priced it.
They made $9 per game on concessions.
Per day. Wow. What do they sell?
Great question. I don't know, but they clearly sell something because they're making money.
Someone would be running on the track and need like a bottle of water and would just happen to stumble past it.
I just saw that, and look, we're still going through the financials, and we'll have stories moving forward. But I was intrigued by our conversation.
Are they paying someone to sit at a concession stand and so?
Good question.
To sell $9 worth of food a game, that would seem to be bad use of resources.
Well, I do know for a fact that soccer has a concession stand, a small one in the corner, and someone is standing there. And just for the sake of comparison, they men's made $6,987, women made $8,685. And again,
that would seem to be a good use of a minimum way. A student, probably handing out bottles of water for $9 a pop. Yeah,
probably. They also have a stand behind behind the thing. They don't charge for parking, so it's not parking. They don't sell programs, and I'm fairly certain they don't have like novelty things they're selling either. I'm pretty sure all this money is concessions. So not to pick on the softball program, but I saw that number 162, and I was like, "Is this measured in thousands? Is it like what's the?" And it was they made $162. I just thought that was funny.
That's good. Yeah, sure. Could do like a popcorn sale and make more than that. Yeah,
probably. We used to sell chocolates when I was in middle school, like Gertrude Hawk chocolates. I used to just buy them all myself because they were very good. And then the last thing, now that we're completely off the rails, we're going to take it even further off the rails.
Oh, please.
I'm going to ask the one question that we were asked for this podcast when you saw questions yesterday.
Okay.
Steve, this is from not Bobby on our Discord. He asks, what are your thoughts on Clavicular getting frame mogged by the Arizona State frat leader?
There are a lot of words in that question that I do not, cannot pretend to know. Clavicular, is that? I assume that's a person. Clavicle man. Is that what it is? He's gonna be clavicle.
Clavicular is a popular streamer known for look maxing. So look maxing is the idea that you maximize your looks. You do everything you can to take care of yourself, including the most popular example is bone smashing. So they'll take a hammer and gently or you'll use your fist. You punch yourself to create microfractures in your bones so that when they heal, they regrow and give you a more pronounced jawline, for example, or you do it to your cheekbones and get a more prominent cheekbone, right? The idea here is that you maximize your looks and you grow to become more and more of an alpha, right? So then you looks max. So then you can mog other people. You frame mog me on the podcast all the time. You are this confident, bigger, stronger person, whereas I'm more of a meek beta. You're more of an alpha, right?
Interesting.
Clavicular normally
I'm sorry
is
you
frame
feel
mog.
that way. Do you need to talk to someone else about this? Maybe,
This is
professional
not
setting. Okay.
this is not a therapy session. This is just the reality of the situation. I have not
Okay.
looks maxed the way you have. I got to looks max more. I got to punch myself a little bit more in the face.
Mhm.
Normally, where Clavicular goes, he mogs others. But he
Okay.
was on a visit to Arizona State, and in the gym, he ran into an unnamed. This guy's been talked about on Twitter to an
Mhm.
unbelievable degree. No one knows his name, who he is, what frat he's
Right.
with. But he shows up in the gym and he frame mogs him. He's wearing like a spaghetti strap shirt, huge muscles,
Okay.
taller, more confident. And it's the talk of Twitter that Clavicular got frame mogged by.
Well, good
by
for
ASU
this
grad.
guy then. I don't like clavicular. I think, come on. Don't build your entire image on freight. You got to do it naturally, apparently, like me. Like you got to be able to frame mog without trying.
Well, have you been taking supplements that are probably shortening your lifespan by 20 years and ruining
Do whatever
your
it takes, man. All the Rogaine. You can tell that didn't work. That didn't work in the 90s.
Man, we got to take trips with the boys to Istanbul, get a nice hair transplant. Those are getting better and better by the day. I think by the time I lose all my hair in 15 years, I'll have a nice cheap trip to Turkey and get.
If I ask my 15-year-old, soon to be 16-year-old son about clavicular, he's going to know who he is. Is that how big he is?
I would think so. I don't think he's a gamer. He's a streamer.
He's a streamer. I'm sorry.
And he's on Kick. He's on Twitch. I think he's been banned on Twitch.
Oh, well, and he might know. He's on Discord. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, we can look at a picture of him. Handsome man. Oh, but there's the dude. I mean, that guy doesn't look normal though. Look at him. What's to look like that? His shoulders are like. I mean, he looks like a cartoon. Looks like a Macy's Day Parade blimp. The other guy. I'd still rather be clavicular. I hate to say it, man. I hate that. I hate the fact that this doesn't look right. Is this a real photo? That can't be a real person.
Let me pull up the a screenshot. But we've been talking about this. We should post this on the Discord. Or not on Discord, on the
right. Yeah. You should Google this if you're an old person like me. If you're an old like me and you have no idea what we're talking about. You should
This
Google
is wonderful. This is wonderful that we are trying our absolute best to get people to log off before the end of the show.
But this guy doesn't look normal. I'm on Team Clavicular still. I mean, I don't know. I mean, does he take his shirt off too? Is this the other thing he does? He's got the abs of steel clavicular.
He does sometimes, but the guy on the left is Clavicular for people following, and the guy on the right is the unnamed, unknown Arizona State frat leader. And I would think, look, even if you had no idea what frame mogging was, what looks maxing is, jester maxing, all that good stuff. We haven't even gotten into jester maxing. That's for another day. But
Jester maxing,
yes. Now,
God,
if you knew nothing about this, you could clearly tell one of these guys is mogging the other, and it's clear who is mogging who. I mean, look at him. He's confident, smiling, looking ahead, no care in the world. And Clavicular is clearly trying to act unbothered, but he's clearly bothered by the insane mogging he is undergoing.
This guy's a freak. This guy on the right's a freak. I'm sorry. I don't know. That's weird. Who wants to look like that? How much effort does that take?
That's looks maxing. A lot of effort.
Then you have a responsibility, and then you find yourself in social situations where you're supposed to be wearing a shirt and you still don't wear a shirt. That's what happens when you're that guy. Like you're just finding excuses, like you're at an eighth grade musical or chorus thing, and you show up in that shirt, like some poetry reading, some rock concert, and taking your shirt off in places you're not supposed to. Who wants to look like that? Come on.
Your wedding, you just rip off your suit for no
exactly.
reason.
You're in the dance floor and totally, 100%. Just taking out, it's just that's too much.
Well, now that we have sufficiently confused and turned off our entire audience, we will have unsubscription numbers.
We used to get comments from people like, stop being funny. Like some people like, stop being funny. Like we get people like I would get an angry one. Stop trying to tell jokes. Like guys, we do 2 of these a week. There's not a lot of Rutgers things to talk about here in February. We're doing the best we can. But yeah, I haven't got one of those in a while. Maybe we'll get one of those. Please yell at me online if you think we should be talking about something else.
Yell at us in the comment section. But before you do, make sure you hit like and subscribe, and make sure that you stay at the Heldridge Hotel, where you will never be frame mogged. You will never find these looks maxers. You will only find serious people, and you will enjoy it. So please stay at the Heldridge Hotel, the best one, bar none, in downtown, beautiful, gorgeous, scenic New Brunswick. Stay there for a football game, a men's basketball game, Hell, stay there for a softball game and go buy a couple of chocolate bars and a couple Diet Cokes. Bump those numbers up.
There you go.
And say hello to everyone at the Heldridge, the best hotel and the greatest sponsor on the face of the earth.
You're the best. All right. The good place to end. Let's stop there. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week to talk about something other than that.
Thank you for listening to the Rutgers Rant, sponsored by the Heldridge Hotel. Head to nj.com/Rutgers for more Scarlet Knight content.
We're mogging.